Hi, this is Jack Stanley, and I wanted to talk about 9/11. 9/11, the date that will always stick with us. And for all of us who were around and saw it happen will remember it, and those that are young will have it beaten into their head so they always know it. It was a terrible day. I saw one of the buildings go down. It was pretty traumatic. I even, actually, reach a book over here. I even wrote about it. And it's interesting, I had this book in my hand when the disaster was taking place. And I wrote all of these notes, what I was watching. It's a first-hand account of the disaster. There is a certain irony in the fact that I had this book, which is, of course, the Titanic disaster, as I was watching the 9/11 disaster. But there's a couple of things I wanted to say about 9/11, and that is, of course, the Twin Towers were a prominent part of New York. I was up in those buildings 1,000 times. I was in them constantly. I worked in them for a while. In fact, the last time I was in them was on September the 8th, 2001, 3 days before the buildings went down. But that's neither here nor there about what I wanted to talk about. Because what I wanted to say about the Twin Towers is this. They have become, for the 21st century, the Titanic. And let me just put it this way, because in the 20th century, especially in the latter half of the 20th century, there was an obsession with the Titanic. The survivors were trotted out. I met two of them, actually, years ago. And one was named Edwina Mackenzie. She was a hoot. And Eva Hart was the other. But the Titanic took a place, mythological to a degree, in our culture. Now, I foresee the 9/11 event, the destruction of the Twin Towers, that whole attack, becoming somewhat like the Titanic. And here's what I mean by this. The loss of the Titanic had a profound effect on the world. It's one of those things that did. Every other shipwreck afterwards did not have the effect. And I'm here going to say that the next time a building is attacked by a plane, or whatever it may be, it will not have the effect that 9/11 had. Basically because, first off, the towers going down was a novel thing. It was amazing in its scope. I mean, I can't fathom how awful it was. But also, I have to say, it was pretty well orchestrated. But here's the thing. 50 years from now, in the year 2061, 50 years after the, that would be, 2051, good for my math, you'll start seeing, I believe, you're going to start seeing societies that are going to start cropping up. Maybe you'll see them long before then, called the 9/11 Memorial Society or the 9/11 Historic Society. And when you get into the 2050s and the 2060s, celebrating the 50th anniversary of that terrible event, you're going to see them start trotting out some of the old survivors. And you're going to see some of the people that worked there, some of the people that were visiting, some of the people who had been there, some of the people that worked in the restaurants, some of the firemen, the policemen, etc. And they will join a hallowed class of individuals who will be honored, very much like the survivors of the Titanic. And yes, it will be a worldwide event when the last fireman involved with the event dies. And it will be a worldwide event when the last policeman involved dies. And of course, it will be in the latter part of the 21st century when the last survivor dies. It'll have the same effect for the rest of this century, very much like the Titanic did. And I foresee lots of organizations and clubs and people that are obsessed, very much in the same way with the Titanic. You had people that thought nothing but Titanic. You have the Titanic Historical Society, in which they live, breathe, think, and talk Titanic. You will have the same thing when it comes to the World Trade Center. And we're starting to see it's only 13 years ago now. But it's already been a long enough time where it's starting to take on a bit of mythical status. And when you see the 25th anniversary in the year 2026, it's going to be pretty amazing. You're going to see stuff everywhere. And of course, in 2051, the 50th anniversary, oh God, it'll be a lot. And if indeed there is someone still alive, which could very well be in the year 2101, celebrating the 100th anniversary, it certainly will be an event. So, move over, Titanic. You had your century. Now, it'll be the Twin Towers that will basically obsess, control, and more or less infiltrate a good deal of the interests, the historical perspectives, and organizations that will come, go, and flourish in this, the 21st century.